Hello, I'm Catherine Mitchell and this is Joanne Sefton, and we'd like to welcome you to a Mitchell Law Tea Break.
Welcome.
Today we're going to be talking about a topic I've always found particularly fascinating, and that's the subject of how we dress at work. Can I just say you're looking very smart today, Joanne?
As are you, as always.
Thank you. And from head to toe, hijabs to high heels, what we wear is a fundamental expression of who we are, and of course we all bring that into our workplace on a daily basis. And for a variety of reasons, that can sometimes cause real issues.
It would certainly cause many more issues if we didn't wear anything.
Yep.
But I can see what you're saying. From a business perspective, it can be an important question. Do we need a dress code, and what should it say?
Well, of course, very much like clothes, there's no one size fits all, and there's no one size fits all answer to that, because it's very dependent on the nature of the business and to some extent on the staff you have working for you.
Well, it seems the Government Equalities Office must be alive to the fact that this can be a problematic issue, because they actually brought out new official guidance on the subject in spring last year.
They did, and I'm afraid it was met with a resounding lack of enthusiasm.
Well, that might be because it's woolier than an unsheared sheep in a Christmas jumper, isn't it?
Yes, I suppose that's arguable, but you're certainly not the only one to reach that view. And it states that dress codes for men and women need not be identical, but should be equivalent. There's quite a lot of room for manoeuvre around the word equivalent, I'd suggest. Plus, it's a restatement of the established legal position without really adding anything new.
I know I have a bit of a tendency to bang this drum, but I do think this may be one of those areas where the law actually does what it should do, but the problem is with the difficulty in enforcing it. I remember seeing a case reported in the Scottish press a couple of years ago about an 18-year-old waitress who had been requested by a manager to wear a tighter skirt. And she successfully sued the restaurant for sex discrimination and won £1,500. But the report also happened to mention that she had an employment lawyer in the family. And it's hard to imagine that she'd been able to bring that claim without that sort of support. And there's probably a lot of waitresses that wouldn't be able to bring the claim, particularly back then when tribunal fees applied.
And I suppose these claims are always likely to be fairly low value unless a refusal to comply with the dress code leads to dismissal. And it's the sort of area where, as a society, we need to look at angles other than individuals bringing claims. This is the sort of thing where the Equality and Human Rights Commission could have a role.
Well, perhaps, or you might just end up with more woolly guidance documents like the one we've been talking about. But just coming back to that, one thing that's pretty clear to me is the influence of the Florian 2016, when an agency receptionist called Nicola Thorpe reported being sent home from work on an assignment at PwC because she wasn't wearing high heels.
Yeah, and there are quite a few mentions about high heels, including an example which suggests that requiring women to wear high heels if men are merely required to look smart is likely to be discriminatory. And there's some confidence in the guidance over that, and also over makeup, manicured nails, certain hairstyles and specific types of hosiery and skirts. And it all begs more questions though. Is it unlawful to impose a dress code that requires women to wear skirts rather than trousers?
In most situations, I'd say the answer to that is probably yes, but the guidance doesn't actually help answer the question. It's quite a simplistic overview, and it ducks the difficult questions. What would we advise employers to think about?
Well, first and foremost, health and safety. So for businesses operating workplaces such as building sites or kitchens, there's a clear need for a dress code that dovetails with the relevant regulations that you're working under. And beyond that, do you need one at all? Well, for employees serving the public or in client-facing roles, you may well feel that a dress code or a specific uniform is appropriate. And where you don't have those elements, I'd think more carefully about why you need one and what it should say. I saw an article online highlighting that the female CEO of General Motors had introduced a 2-line dress code. It just said, dress appropriately. There's lots to like about that, giving people responsibility and autonomy, and encouraging your employees to act like grown-ups.
I do see the attraction. I'd be fascinated to see how it works in practice. But I'd take a little bit of convincing that it's all a good thing. It assumes that we have a common view on what appropriate means, and we just don't. I can see real issues, for starters, around religious dress. If you have female Muslim workers, what level of covering up counts as appropriate? And the answer to that will depend on the circumstances, but it's problematic to expect people to guess.
And of course, if you have frontline managers applying different rules, say in an organisation with a number of establishments, that's a recipe for disaster.
Quite. And my second problem is that it's actually a bit subtle. When you look at social mobility, particularly around the areas of graduate recruitment and getting people started on a career path, there is this question of polish that comes up. And, you know, can we put this person in front of a client? And if we just assume that everyone knows what appropriate means, we're perhaps perpetuating this culture of hiring people who seem to fit right, rather than those who are best for the job.
Yeah, and I can see there's something in those points, though I wonder if the second one needs to be handled with a blunt instrument like a dress code. Perhaps it's the sort of area where informal advice or mentoring might work better.
It's horses for courses, isn't it? And all employment policies obviously need to be tailored to fit your organisation and not just pulled off the shelf. But dress code in particular, I think, is one where if you are going to have it, it really needs to be one that works for you.
Yeah, I agree. And moving away from clothes for a moment, one thing I did find interesting in the guidance is the suggestion that requiring women to wear makeup would be unlawful.
Simply unless the men are required to wear it too.
Yes, granted. Anyway, I bet we can all think of places where we would go as customers and expect to see women with full face on.
Yeah, I agree. Although you don't know whether it's actually written down in any dress code, it may well not be.
Well, that's what I was thinking. And as well as the question of what does the dress code say, you've also got the question of what is the company culture? And it comes back to your Scottish case, in a way. The dress code didn't stipulate a provocative skirt. It was the manager who told her to wear a tighter one.
Yeah, and there's no legislating for that anyway, is there? I suppose there has to be a degree of common sense here, in that if you don't want to wear makeup, you're unlikely to choose to work on the beauty counter of the department store.
Yeah, and I suppose that's right, although the more problematic areas are the low-paid jobs where people may feel that they have little choice about the sort of role that they're going into. And there could be people in that situation with good claims, but we come back to the reality that it's probably not practical for them to bring them.
I think we should probably wrap up about that point.
Yeah, and I can't end without saying, for the benefit of those who haven't heard about this before, we're strangely fascinated by the sumptuary laws, which defined what individuals were and weren't allowed to wear by social class a long time ago. So for fact fans, between 1571 and 1597, it was compulsory for all English males to wear woolen caps on Sundays and holidays or be fined 3 farthings.
Amazing.
It is. And on that note, we'll call it a day. If you'd like our advice on dress codes or related issues within your business, please let us know. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you for the next tea break.